Welcome back. Welcome back. It is me, BrittReacts, and today we're reacting to Dave Chappelle's hilarious Jim Carrey story. This is from his most recent Netflix special, The Dreamer. Let's see what he has to say.
And what I remember most about that night was the pressure. Before the show, I had to run out there on the avenue and hand out tickets to anybody who would take them because I couldn't even fill the fucking room.
That's
Boy,
crazy.
what a difference.
That's crazy.
24 short years makes.
Yeah. I love that he said 24 short years because, you know, the days are long, but the years truly are short. And for him to acknowledge, you know, it seemed like in context that maybe he was talking about the beginning of his career because he said he had to go out and hand out tickets to fill the room. That's my assumption, is that he's talking about like his beginning, his origin story, if you will. And just for him to acknowledge like his career has been 24 years, which is a long time, but it really isn't, you know, like in the scope of things, it really isn't. I think that speaks to Dave's, he's such a humble human being, in my opinion. And I think that speaks to that.
And right before that time, my father had died. He never lived to see me do it.
Oh, wow.
And when he died, I was inconsolable. I thought I'd never smile or laugh again. And the only thing that got me out of that space was a comedian friend of mine, the late, great Norm Macdonald. That's right. Shout out to Norm.
You guys, I talked about this. In my Norm Macdonald reactions. I was just introduced to Norm Macdonald. The first time was watching Shane Gillis and Theo Von talk about how Shane was canceled. And Shane said that Norm called him. And to have a great like Norm Macdonald call him meant a lot. And I mentioned in the video, I'm like, who's Norm? I've never heard of him. And you guys let me know in the comments. If not that same day, the next night, my husband watches, he loves comedy, but he knows that I react to a lot of comedy. And so he'll go downstairs in the living room where I don't really hang out and he'll watch like all his comedy stuff. And so I was just in the kitchen bypassing. I think I went down to get something to drink and he was watching this. And I heard Dave Chappelle say Norm Macdonald's name. So it must have been this line right here. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Pause the TV. And my husband was like, what's wrong? And I was like, did he just say Norm Macdonald? I just thought it was like such a sign that like I needed to go find out who Norm Macdonald was. Since then I have done so. I have 2 Norm Macdonald reactions. One went up today. And so now I know. But to get the context, that's why I laughed and I was like, aha, because now I have the context of what exactly he was talking about. So let's keep going.
That's right. Shout out to Norm. And what Norm did, which I'll never forget, is he knew that I was the biggest Jim Carrey fan in the world. Now, I'm not going to go all into it, but Jim Carrey is talented in a way that you can't practice, rehearse.
Oh, I agree.
God-given talent. I was fascinated with it.
I agree.
And Norm knew that. And he called me up and he goes, Dave, he says, I'm doing a movie with Jim Carrey. Do you want to meet him? And I said, fuck, yes, I do. And it was the first time I could remember since my father died being excited.
Yeah.
And the movie was called Man on the Moon. I didn't know any of this. And in this movie, Jim Carrey was playing another comedian I admired, the late, great Andy Kaufman.
I don't know who Andy Kaufman is.
And Jim Carrey was so immersed in that role that from the moment he woke up to the time he went to bed at night, he would live his life as Andy Kaufman. I didn't know that. When they said cut, this nigga was still Andy Kaufman.
I'm sorry, but is it not the funniest thing to y'all when comedians especially use that term, that derogatory term towards non-black people? Like, that is the funniest thing to me. I don't care. I get it. Shut up. Be quiet. Have a laugh. It's hilarious to me. Okay. One, I agree with Dave Chappelle. I have said this here on this channel. Jim Carrey has been one of my favorites since like Ace Ventura. That's how I was introduced to Jim Carrey, was Ace Ventura. I'm aging myself. I'm a millennial. And I have thought that this man was a genius, like ever since. Like, I've always been a fan. But recently I started reacting to clips from In Living Color. And I think, what is it? The fire marshal, the preacher. Like, the way this man can completely immerse himself into characters physically first. Like, he embodies these like funny, weird characters in the craziest way. Like, his body does things and he can like maintain the character physically before any comedy is said. The physicality of it, which like sometimes it looks like it hurts. Like, he sticks his neck out and he does that thing. Like, that is not something teachable. And I've said that, and I love that Dave is saying it because it makes me feel a little validated in my love for him. It's like, if someone as great as Dave Chappelle also recognizes that, then I also, you know, it just makes me feel like, wow, I know what I'm talking about. But I've said it time and time again here on this channel, anything to do with Jim Carrey, I'm just like, this man is beyond comedy. He really is. And it's not something that like any other comic could even mimic, because you have to come onto this planet with it. Like, he is one of a kind. I mean, oh, all right. Thank you, Dave, for validating me. Let's keep going.
Cut. This nigga was still Andy Kaufman. So much so that everybody on the crew called him Andy. I didn't know any of that.
That's
I just
wild.
went there to meet him.
No, that's wild.
The room we were supposed to meet. I screamed, Jim Carrey. And everyone said, no.
Oh.
Call him Andy.
No, that's creepy.
Understand. And then he came over and he was acting weird. I didn't know he was acting like Andy Kaufman. Just like, hey, how you doing? And I was like, hello. Andy? Now, in hindsight,
he looked like the character he played in Nutty Professor when he was like the comedian that was heckling the Nutty Professor, but then when the Nutty Professor became Buddy Love, you know what I'm talking about? He made that like exact face. Look. I'm pressing all the wrong thing.
Hello.
That face.
Andy? Now, in hindsight, how fucking lucky am I that I got to see one of the greatest artists of my time immersed in one of his most challenging processes ever. Very lucky to have seen that. But as it was happening, I was very disappointed.
Where's Jim?
I wanted to meet Jim Carrey, and I had to pretend this nigga was Andy Kaufman all afternoon. And he was clearly Jim Carrey. I could look at him and I could see he was Jim Carrey. Anyway, I say all that to say, that's how trans people make me feel.
I'm so shook because when I tell you I thought this was beginning and ending with Jim Carrey, that just hit me and took my breath away, that joke. Okay. I too would be quite disappointed if I met like anyone that I looked up to and they made me address them as someone else and they were acting as someone else. Like, that would just be the biggest disappointment of my life. But we're not talking about that, are we? We're talking about that punchline, the ba-dum psh of it all. And we all know that not only did Dave ruffle some feathers in the trans community, what was that? Last year, the year before last, his last special. No, I don't know how many specials ago, but I know he ruffled the feathers. But there were protests to get him, like, all his stuff taken down from Netflix and for Netflix not to work with him anymore. And for him to come on and make that joke on his newest Netflix special is not only such a ha-ha, cancel that, but also a big you to everyone who tried to cancel him and hate on him and take his jokes too seriously. I could not believe he like said the whole joke and brought it full circle back to that. And then you think about the meat and the potatoes of it and you're kind of like, well, yeah, I guess that's how he feels. Like, that it makes him feel like, I see what you're telling me to call you, but I don't understand. Kind of, you know what I mean? That's exactly what he's trying to say. All right. Well, that took me by surprise. I I really was just sitting, like, I'm like, I totally agree. Jim Carrey is the greatest. That's a great joke. Wow. All right. That was my chair, by the way. I don't know what else to say. My nose is running. I'm still sick. That just threw me for a loop. Do me a favor. Sound off in the comments. Be kind to one another. All opinions are welcome here, but kindness is not debatable. If you can't be kind, kick rocks. All right? I love you guys. Go and have the day that you deserve. Ta-ta.